And let's now bring in Ryan Mallough, Senior Director of Provincial Affairs for Ontario from the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Ryan, good evening and thank you for your time here on CTV News Channel.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
So talk to us about the impact all these new restrictions are going to have once again during the holiday season in the country.
I mean, it's the worst type of Groundhog Day for a lot of small business owners. It's been 22 months now, and to come into the holidays and to be shut down the week before Christmas, or rather significantly restricted the week before Christmas, is going to have a devastating impact as reservations are canceled, plans are moved around, and stores become less available to last-minute customers.
Ryan, we've seen since the start of this pandemic, there's been like a yo-yo effect of businesses opening, closing, restrictions coming in, then another lockdown, a second lockdown. Now we had them open up, barely picking up. Once again, Omicron variant and businesses shutting down. My question to you is, are businesses being unfairly targeted?
I think that they certainly feel that way. I mean, I think that no one can argue that small businesses have stepped up to protect public health and safety. We understood that the first couple of times around that was what was being required. But at the same time, it's month 22 and we're still falling into the same patterns. We're still restricting small businesses, and it is having a significant impact, not just on finances, not just on employment, but on the mental health of a lot of business owners across Canada.
So what else do you see the government doing, Ryan? Because, many of these businesses under capacity limits now are where people do end up having, close contact, people-to-people contact. And we know that that's where the virus really rapidly spreads, especially with the Omicron variant. So the government brings in these restrictions to break that contact. What else do you think the government could do?
Well, so I think first and foremost, there needs to absolutely be funding available. And we've seen Nova Scotia step up, but to date, no other province has stepped up. And with the recent federal changes, federal funding's a lot more difficult to access now. So you've got business owners who are kind of left flapping in the wind with very little, if any, support. I think the second part that really needs some work is government communications. You ask anybody right now, talking with friends or colleagues, it really feels like we've entered a lockdown, but in no province is that true. We've been restricted, but these businesses are still open. The amount of fear that has come out of a lot of these press conferences, though, are going to keep people home. And what you're going to see is businesses open to no customers and bleeding money every day that they are open.
I'm glad you picked up the point on messaging, Ryan, because we're hearing a lot from people that there is confusion in how messaging is delivered from province to province. People talk across the country as well. People have family in other parts of the country as well. And they are left confused with what's happening on one end of the country is not happening in another. So talk to us a little more about this messaging aspect.
Yeah, it's been incredibly confusing. And, business owners talk as well. I mean, I myself was one of those people here in Toronto that went through 7 months without a haircut. And my colleagues in BC couldn't figure out what was going on because personal services were never really restricted over there. So it's this huge mishmash of regulations between province. And then it gets even more difficult within the provinces when local health units are also making additional restrictions or having signage requirements or making other rules. So business owners are trying to track in real time, ever-changing health restrictions, which is not only a lot of pressure to put on an individual, but again, just makes things incredibly confusing in terms of how open you can be, who can come in, who can't, where you need to be masked, where you don't. And the end result winds up being that not a lot of people know what they're doing, so they kind of make it up on the spot, which isn't really the best approach to public health and safety, let alone running a business.
Yeah, these are challenging times for sure. Ryan Mallough, Senior Director of Provincial Affairs for Ontario from the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. Thank you for your time, Ryan.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.